Hi, this is Melissa Schiefelbein in 5 books that changed my parenting. Number 1, Neurotribes by Steve Silberman. This book is super long, but it also is super informative. Autism spectrum disorder kind of gives off this impression that it came out of nowhere, and suddenly everyone knows someone who lives with it. The truth is, it has its story and history just like anything else. Neurotribes does a really great job of demonstrating examples from history while giving a picture of the journey that autism has taken over the years. I also appreciate that this book takes a glimpse at approaches to autism that have been effective and ones that have been debunked over time. I really enjoyed the fact that this book allowed me to see autism in a whole new lens. Instead of viewing the potential areas of struggle that it can come with, it describes the ways in which the human brain shows an element of evolution in autism. I highly recommend taking the time to read it because it'll allow you to think about autism beyond just the characteristics that we attribute to the label. Number 2, The Autistic Brain by Temple Grandin. If you're not familiar with Temple Grandin, she's a world-known scientist and professor in human and animal behavior. Temple grew up with high-functioning autism and utilized her skill set and abilities to accomplish feats in the field of science that are nothing short of extraordinary. She has given the world of autism a great deal of insight by using her experience as an individual on the spectrum. In this book, Temple describes her research into autism as a subject to her own experimentation. She provides actual scans of her brain in comparison to a neurotypical brain, and objectively explains variables that contribute to the characteristic of autism spectrum disorder. As a parent and a practitioner, I find it incredibly important to see autism beyond the behavior that commonly accompanies it. We should be curious about the wiring behind it. We have to seek to understand, not just intervene. This book is great about providing information from the perspective of an individual who sought to learn more about why she seemed to react and behave differently from her peers. Then use that information to drive her into a career and lifestyle that she was passionate about. Number 3, From Anxiety to Meltdown by Deborah Lipsky. Seeing a meltdown from a child on the spectrum can be really overwhelming as a parent. When I experienced this with my child, having no experience in the field of autism, I often panicked and didn't know how to be an adequate parental figure in the moment. I could tell my child wasn't just throwing a tantrum, something was going on with him that I didn't understand. Deborah Lipsky is an individual on the spectrum and offers a detailed description of what happens internally when she feels herself transitioning from a point of high anxiety to a meltdown. This probably wasn't an easy topic to write about, but it did the public a really great service. We're able to better understand the trails that our children go through just before a meltdown occurs. This is invaluable information because it helps us prioritize. I learned that when my child was melting down, it wasn't a matter of discipline or lack thereof. It was a matter of guiding him to regulate his anxiety, emotions, and response patterns before trying to guide him into healthy behavior patterns. It also helped me trace back patterns that could have potentially triggered the meltdown in the first place. So then we could learn to work on it before he got into fight or flight mode. While everyone is wired a little differently, we have to keep in mind that it's really important to know some of the basics of meltdowns, why they may occur, and helpful strategies to work through them. Number 4, The Ultra Mind Solution by Dr. Mark Hyman. This book may be a little unexpected in the platform of autism, but it's the holy grail when it comes to any behavioral disorder. Here's how we've been trained to think. If I have a sinus issue, I see an ear, nose, and throat specialist. If I have a gut issue, I see a gastroenterologist. If I have a behavioral issue, I see a psychologist. What we never are led to think is how the sinus infection could be a result of the poor gut health, which also can create behavioral disorders. If your car is breaking down, you never think to yourself, well, is it the engine? Because then I should take it to an engine specialist. Is it the brakes? Because then I take it to the brake specialist. We take it to one location with one specialist, and the mechanic does a full-on diagnostic and attempts to fix the whole problem. Why don't we see our bodies that way? Dr. Hyman does an excellent job with showing how the brain and the body function as one. And issues in diet and in the gut can absolutely lead to behavioral diagnoses in a way that would absolutely shock you. Number 5, Hello Health by Pamela Worth. I was fortunate enough to meet Pamela Worth at a health convention about a year ago, and her experience in the field of autism came by absolute surprise. In her book, Hello Health, she gives her story of how strains of strep throat contributed to characteristics of autism in her child seemingly overnight. Strep throat. Not something you would typically think about when you're thinking in terms of behavioral disorders. This book is a very quick read and a huge story of triumph. Through integrative medicine, she was able to get to the bottom of why a behavioral disorder seemed to take effect out of nowhere and trace it all the way back to the very core of the biological system. She's since then developed supplements for gut health that I highly recommend. It's another great example of how our bodies and brain act as one. And in order to understand what's going on with one, you have to get the full picture. This really changed how I view behavioral disorders in general. It's not enough to just get one small part of the picture when it comes to the intervention. We really have to think comprehensively about our child's overall health. There are other resources that I attribute to who I am as a practitioner and as a parent, but these 5 gave me my foundation. They helped build up my mission and my focus to optimize my parenting and clinical work. I started out on the journey of autism knowing nothing, and these sources of wisdom allowed me to start knowing what questions to ask and where to find the answers. I hope they'll do the same for you. Please make sure to like and subscribe for more information coming out on our channel. Books are just one small part of integrating into the world of autism, and I can't wait to share more with you. Don't forget to book a session with us if you'd like one-to-one guidance on how to make this information applicable to you and your child. It takes a team, and we're here to help.